Wow. Hey, besties. It looks like my connection might be a little unstable. I'm on my regular laptop, so I don't know. I'm gonna let it settle real quick. But hi, how y'all doing? I see y'all in the chat. What's good? Hey, Dr. Deb. Hey, Sloan. Happy Sunday. Hey, Desiree. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Well, it's not evening anywhere, I guess. It might be evening somewhere. Good evening. Hey, bestie. Hey, friend. Hello. Yes, 3 planets in Gemini. Do you hear how loud it is? Do you hear it? Do you remember when y'all asked me how I was feeling about Gemini transits? And I was like, they just get on my nerves because it'd be loud as hell. Because everybody be talking and you can't understand shit that anybody is saying for some reason. It'd be like, I see there's words and I hear a sound coming out, but what are you saying? Like, help me understand because I can't comprehend. I went for a nice little bike ride this morning. I'm gonna do this anyway today, just cause. I went for a nice little bike ride this morning. I launched myself off of this drop again. I didn't launch myself though. The first time that I did it, I think it was last week or earlier this week or whenever it was, I did launch myself off of it and I was like, that was a mistake. So I um, floated off of it this morning instead of launching myself so that it was a little more calm and made myself do it like 5 or 6 times so I could get over it. And every time it didn't necessarily get less scary, but I got better. So love that for me. No accidents, which is great. I also got some little fidget spinners. Oh my gosh. These are the best. The mini ones like this. This was $1 at the toy store. And it just goes and goes and goes and goes. Oh shit. And goes. It's spinning too fast. I love that. It feels so good. It scratches my brain just right. And I also got this little guy. This little, I think it's like filled with shaving cream or something. But it's a little kitty. Meow. Look how happy. I was visiting with my friend who's also my coworker, and she introduced me to these things. And so I brought her one as a gift, as a guest in her house. And turns out she already had like 3 of them. So I was like, welcome to the family. So anyway, love fidgets. All my other ADHD and neurodivergent baddies, get in on that. Get in on that action. Okay, what are we talking about today? Well, we have 2 aspects today, which means most of the drama was last week, as you can tell. Last week leading up to today, and then today we shift into slightly new territory with the sun in Gemini. That's going to lead us to the new moon conjunct Jupiter in Gemini in a couple weeks. Oh no, I think it's next week. Yeah, next week on the 25th is the new moon. So fun, but all of the drama leading up to today is because of Jupiter square Saturn. And this is the first Jupiter Saturn square that we've had this year and in this sign pair. So it's loud. It's a lot of mutable. Mutable transits are so annoying. It's just so much of everybody speculating of what something means, what someone meant, what someone's intentions were. Getting that little bit of information and creating a whole story, fabricating a whole story out of it, and not necessarily knowing what the actual truth and intentions are of the people involved. So hate that. Hey, Jim. Hate that. Very annoying. But it is what it is. We'll get through it. We are also something I realized this week that kind of snuck up on me is that we are in eclipse season. We are in eclipse season because Mars entered Leo. And I know we talked about Mars conjunct K2 and that whole thing, but it didn't occur to me when we were having that conversation that meant eclipse season started whenever Mars entered Leo. And so I did an edible. I did an edible earlier this week that I got from this Pride Fest last weekend. And they were supposed to be light, but I was like, I don't smoke at all. I have no tolerance whatsoever. So let me ease into this. And so it's a 5 milligram edible. So I had half of that as they recommended on the package. It's like half THC, half CBG, which that's a new cannabinoid to me. So I was like, okay. Had half of that and did it as soon as I got home from work and started cooking because I wanted it to hit a lot early enough for me to like enjoy it a little bit and then go to bed. So I get all the way through cooking and I sit down and I'm like halfway through my meal and I'm looking at my bowl and I'm like, this edible ain't shit. I had that moment. And then I was watching my stuff and then I looked back down at my bowl and I was like, damn, that's a lot of food in here. And then I realized and I was like, oh, it's hitting. And it wasn't that serious, but the way I respond to edibles is and THC in general is that all the thoughts that I'm trying to drown out of my own mind get very loud. So I can't ignore my own mind and my own thoughts anymore. And I realized in that moment, I was like, wow, I really do like do everything I can to keep thoughts from entering, to keep a single personal thought from entering my head. And from that point, the floodgates open. I had many thoughts about many things. And I was going to write a post about this at work the next day, but I was so drained I didn't get around to it. So I'm going to talk about it here. And then I also want to have a little pop culture chat because there's a lot of pop culture things going on. And the world is very scary right now with things going on in Iran and isn't real. So, um, yeah, I don't know, much to discuss, but it is Father's Day. So I'm going to try not to be on here too long because I have to go see my papa. So yeah, when I was having these thoughts, the first thing I thought about was like, oh, it's eclipse season because I had a moment where I felt like I was like, I feel like I'm getting eclipsed, and I felt like I was getting eclipsed in the sense that I was having a lot of Leo related thoughts. And so for me, Leo transits do a few things, and we might have already talked about this, but I'll talk about it again. Leo transits do a few things for me, and I'm curious if y'all can relate. There's that feeling of being center stage in a play that you maybe did or didn't sign up for, did or didn't audition for. And there's this feeling that a lot of people can see you or a lot of people have seen you in the past. And you're having feelings or thoughts or, I don't know, having a response, some kind of reaction to the way you've been perceived, either in the past, in the present, or in the future. So for me, I get real self reflective, but I also get kind of like, I don't know if paranoid is the word, but I get a little bit like, "Oh no, people saw that." And it makes me having Mars and Leo myself, it makes me want to separate myself from whatever that thing is that people saw that I saw about me that I didn't want them to see. And there's usually a lot of shame associated with whatever that is. Like shame oftentimes being the feeling I'm trying to separate myself from or wanting to separate myself from whatever projections or images people are projecting onto me or wanting to protect myself from that as well, right? Trying to control the reaction to people's perceptions. So it's not necessarily not wanting to be perceived, which I think is more of an Aquarius thing. It's just like wanting to be seen a certain way or wanting a certain aspect about you to be seen and to be visible and realizing that maybe people are not actually seeing that. So yes, live chat on the Jumbotron. I think it just looks cool. Even if you can't really read it, it shows that there's activity in the chat. So y'all feel free to Gemini it up. Okay. But yeah, so that was kind of what I was thinking about. And in the moment that I was having these thoughts, I started reflecting on just like things like the type of friend that I've been to people over the years and the ways that I like am or am not very present in relationships or like um how I may struggle to communicate and hold my own boundaries or like um I don't know, things around gender and identity stuff, like just spiraling straight up. And I was like, wow, I wonder like with these eclipses how much of us are starting to catch up in a way to the person that we are now versus the person that we were 5 years ago. And I say 5 years ago because that was the last time we had the nodes in fixed signs. That would have been the nodes in Taurus and Scorpio, which was much of the beginning of the pandemic. We were transitioning out of Gemini and Sagittarius eclipses into Scorpio and Taurus eclipses. So This being like the quarter point from those, I was like, "Oh, so whatever changes were happening back then that hadn't fully formed, and then, going through all of Saturn and Aquarius too, and all of the identity changes that inspired. Now we're here at the eclipses where it's kind of like, okay, time to like actualize, time to really be that." And it kind of freaked me out. It kind of freaked me out because Mars, like we've said before, it goes through and it disrupts whatever. So in a way, it feels like Mars is kind of scrambling your self perception right now, for good or for bad, so that you can piece it together by the time the sun gets to Leo and say, okay, this is what's actually going on in here, and decide if you do or don't want it to be that way. Probably by the time we get to the full moon and Aquarius eclipse. And I think that's really interesting. So, I was telling another friend about how it really does feel like, because of the trauma of the beginning part of the pandemic and all of this uncertainty around it, that many of us are stuck in like for example, I feel like I'm still 25 because that's the age that I was when the pandemic happened, and I'm 30. So that's like a big gap. 5 years is a big gap and a lot of life to live and not feel like that much time has passed. And so it feels like getting to a point where I don't know if safe enough is necessarily the word, because everything is still chaotic and things haven't changed, but there's this feeling of like, oh, like a little bit more awareness of how much time has passed and how much I have changed and how much things have changed and other people have changed, and trying to catch up to that, or maybe move forward in a way instead of being stuck in the same identity from a few years ago. I mean, I think for me, some of that feeling, quote, safer has to do with having a little bit more stability in my life. So that's why I'm curious if like y'all are feeling a similar way, or if you don't feel that way at all and are maybe feeling even more stuck. And if that's the case, the other thing that I kind of speculate is going to happen over the next few weeks is when Mercury enters Cancer on let me see when that happens. Oh, next week. Haha. Next Sunday, Mercury is going to enter Cancer, and Mercury will be in Cancer for the new moon in Gemini. So Mercury in Cancer is going to be the ruler of the next new moon, where the sun, Jupiter, and the moon are going to be. So that's a big deal for Mercury to be in charge of Jupiter in Cancer, or Mercury in Cancer being in charge of Jupiter in Gemini, where Jupiter is going to be at this new moon and all that other stuff. To me, we've had so many significant Cancer transits between the Mars retrograde in Cancer and Gemini, and then we'll have a Mercury retrograde in Cancer. I don't think it'll go back into Gemini. I think it's all in Cancer, the Mercury retrograde. So retrograde season also starts next week. And then we'll have Jupiter stationary retrograde in Cancer, and then it'll move back into Gemini. So something about this transition between Mercury and Cancer is really significant, and has been really significant since last summer. And to me, one of the thoughts I had about that personally was this idea that, like, because we've been stuck in this idea of a version of ourselves from 5 years ago, like caring for your physical body 5 years ago before COVID is way different than caring for yourself today, whether you have long COVID, whether you just have PTSD or CPTSD, whether you just lost a lot of friendships, whether you lost a job and then got a new one, or whatever big life changes happened 5 years ago. The way that you care for yourself as a result of all of that change is different today than it was back then. So I feel like this whole Gemini Cancer thing is Cancer sign, getting to Cancer transits and realizing like, oh, my body is different in some kind of a way. My body, my nervous system, my physical capability, my health, something is different now than it was back then. So planet moves through Cancer, stations retrograde, moves back into Gemini, and then Gemini is like, I need to figure that the fuck out, because what is this? This is new to me. I need to investigate. I need to become more curious about what has changed for me and how I've changed as a result. And then that's how all the rest of the planets get looped in, through the sun being in Gemini, moving to Mars and Leo, moving to Venus and Aries, so on and so forth. all the astro dance. So yeah, I'm thinking by the time we get to next week, Mercury enters Cancer, and then we have that Mercury retrograde. There's going to be even more of this kind of identity crisis, but I need to take care of myself differently. And I also had this thought personally that maybe y'all can relate to, that was like, um almost feeling some shame not knowing how to care for myself, or realizing that I'm not very good at taking care of myself, whatever that means to me, whatever that means to you, and therefore like feeling bad about that, but then also realizing I need to give myself grace, because how was I supposed to know? How am I supposed to know? One, because I this is my first time being a human like everybody else, but also how am I supposed to know how how to respond to a global trauma? Like, how am I supposed to know how to respond to constantly being in wartime? How am I supposed to, like, this is the first time any of us a lot of us are experiencing these things, except for maybe some of the older gens who have been through some version of this before. But for a lot of us, at least in my generation and younger, like, this is our first time going through a lot of this. And I think, to the Gemini point, and the mutable of it all, having the internet and social media specifically to be aware of it constantly. Like, for the older gens who didn't have social media, I mean, in the like the internet specifically, to be able to look at your phone and see bombs being dropped on other countries like overseas, and dead bodies constantly, and then having to go to work the next day and act like it's not happening, or to have communicated with so many people across the world who have lost so many, like, just experienced so much loss and grief and death and destruction, and know about it, versus just having the story that was told to you on world news or on the radio or whatever, and just kind of having to take that at face value. Like, it's different. um it's one thing to have the experience for the first time. It's another thing to have the experience for the first time and be aware of so much more than what you would have been aware of at a different time, and the impact that that has on your body. Like, that's something that Nadine and I talk about a lot, where um it's not normal, and we take for granted the impact that information has on our bodies and nervous system, even if it's just mundane information. If you tried to sit in a lecture on a topic that you liked for 8 hours, like, you're not like, that's going to be really taxing, taxing on you physically, mentally, and emotionally, because it's information overload. And so I'm feeling a little bit of that during these Gemini transits as well, with the Saturn and Pisces aspect of just like everybody talking, information overload, everyone has opinions, everyone has thoughts, and we unfortunately have access to that in a very direct way, that you can't just like tune it out. And then shifting into the Leo of it all too, internalizing some of other people's thoughts and perceptions and ideas, and the ways that we feel about it personally, and how that influences your sense of self and your self perception and your identity and everything else. It's just like, turn it off. How do I turn this off? And you can't. And then not only can you not turn it off, but once you know, you can't unknow. So it just haunts you in your sleep. And I've been dreaming a lot too, man. My dreams, like, I sleep like a rock, and then my dreams are very stark. Just a lot of emotional processing through dreams as well too. So it's a lot. It's a lot. We're going through a lot. And I do think part of the purpose of these Cancer transits is to be like, hey, this is a lot. Do you feel that? Wow. We should do something about that. So those are my thoughts. Let me see what y'all are saying in the chat. Linear time is hard for my ADHD brain. Um on a good day, and then these past 5 years have been super weird. Yes, they've been very weird. Linear time, yeah, like, even whenever I'm reflecting on just old memories from high school or from college that feel like they shouldn't be that long ago, and then I realize, like, wow, it's been at least 15 years. No, it's been, if I graduated high school in 2013 and it's 2025, it's been like 12 years since I graduated high school. What? Is that right? Math. Yeah, 12 years since graduating high school, and then like another 9 years, I think, since I graduated college. That doesn't feel right. And even when I tell people I'm 30 years old, I'm like, that doesn't feel right either. I don't know what it means to be 30 years old. What does that feel like? And then adding into that, not like hitting the normative like milestones of getting like a full-time job or whatever at a certain age, and then getting married at a certain age, having kids at a certain age. I just feel like I'm out here floating in space. I don't know how anybody's doing anything. It's amazing to me that people my age have kids that are like toddlers. I'm like, how are you doing that? I don't understand. I'm still a baby trying to figure out how to care for myself in an honest way. And it's like upsetting because it's hard to do that and maintain relationships. So I just don't know how anybody's doing anything, but they're doing it. And I've gathered that a lot of people do feel that way about some aspect of their life to some extent, that they're just like, there's some arrested development going on. It's so sad to think about feeling more stuck. It's been interesting how collectively folks feel this despite not all being on the same page about the pandemic. Yes, and unwilling to talk about it too. They're just kind of like, well, yeah. I'm like, there's a lot that's changed. Like, there's a lot of adjusting that we've had to do and adapting that we've had to do as a result of that. And we just don't really, I don't know, it's just hard to actually process that when it's all of it's ongoing. My stepmom reminded me that my dad died 4 years ago. Wow. And I'm sure that feels like it was not that long ago at all. Or maybe it feels like it was forever ago. I don't know. Yes, I feel the same. It's exhausting to be doing it again. And this time I have kids. I don't want to be dragged into more Middle East bullshit. Yeah, right. Processing has been overwhelming at times. Yes. Also, hello. Been dreaming so much too. Sleep has been shit. There's also that. Ooh, yeah, that's really heavy, Deb. That's really heavy. That's a lot to carry and have to try to figure out how to sort through. So, I don't know. I just feel like I don't know what the consequence of all of this will be, but public health declining as a result of all of it and people not understanding why. That's just kind of where we're at. So, mm, I sweated out half my body weight this morning. It's so humid. Um Calendars, journals, and keepsakes help me mark time. Like I keep all of that old stuff. I think not being in an in group also helps me figure out what my timeline is. True. I know I should be better about journaling, and I'm really not, but astrology also just helps me keep some of these things in line in my brain. Ignoring viruses has become a maladaptive behavior, in my opinion. Yes, I agree. Compartmentalization doesn't even begin to cover the dissonance for real. Yes, also that. So yeah, I'm just kind of like, well, we'll just have to see. Things keep happening. It's very hard to process the last thing when another thing happens immediately after. So, but you know what? We will still, time continues. So, anyways, so yeah, that's how I'm feeling collectively, and just some reflections about it being eclipse season and this journey that we're on of self-discovery and orienting ourselves with the world in a correct way, or in a, I don't know, in an adaptive way. A lot of adapting with mutable transits for sure. So, okay. Pop culture. There's two, at least two, potentially more that I'm just not thinking of immediately. But kind of following from last week's conversation about celebrities and their queerness, and people having big feelings about celebrities and how they embody their queerness, if you will. This week, both Doja Cat and Justin Bieber got blasted yesterday or over the last couple of days for just public behavior related things. So I'm biased. I'm a Doja Cat fan. I'll just put that out there. And Justin Bieber, I don't really think about Justin very often, but I do think he needs some real help. Somebody needs to help that man. He's not okay. I think he hasn't been okay for a very long time. I think all of the Diddy stuff is probably very traumatizing for him. And whatever health issues that he's had over the years, his wife has had over the years, he's got a baby, like, and him just being Justin Bieber growing up the way that he grew up, I'm worried about him. I'm very concerned. So those are my biases going into this conversation. But in general, um, speaking of Leo transits, something I think about a lot is how visibility and fame can be a curse, especially the more visibility and fame that you get, because I think I said this last week, there's a point where with enough visibility and like notoriety and fame, people stop seeing you as a real person and they idolize you. They put you up on this pedestal and they have expectations of you to behave the way they want you to behave all the time, instead of you being a person who just has a lot of fame and money and class privilege and things like that. I think when it comes to people like artists, who do who entertain us, artists, influencers, content creators, whoever, people who um have public platforms that a lot of people know and listen to, and who entertain us as their job. I have a little bit more grace for that type of celebrity than I do for, like, I don't know, politicians. you know because at the end of the day, like, I do think you have to be a little different to actually want fame or to become famous in the first place. It takes a lot of what did I just heard Lady Gaga whenever she was like 22 doing this interview that I sent to Samaje, and she was like, you have to have a lot of nerve, because people will like your art, but there are also people who just don't want you to be famous, and you have to have something about you, which felt very Aries to me. You have to have a little something about you that is just like fuck it, and kind of doesn't care to some extent, or is willing to put yourself out there, willing to be risky and a little bit reckless and whatever, to be the type of creative that is, maybe edgy or popular. Sabrina Carpenter is also included in this because she's been on the timeline a lot this last week too. People just get weird about famous people. And if I'm thinking about all of these overlaps of the visibility and the class differences and the power that comes with visibility and the influence that you have whenever you're really visible and a lot of eyes are on you and all of this stuff, is kind of like, you know, I think Jujubee said it best whenever she said that celebrities are just exaggerated versions of everyday niggas. Like, that's how I feel. If you respect the talent and the art, but then you also have to realize that these are people like you and me who have just decided to go this other route. But I don't think it's totally fair to say that you sign up for having paparazzi up your asshole all the time, or that you sign up for this like idolization that people do to you purely because you have this talent that people like. It's like there's like a weird entitlement. And I feel like I've been saying this for years, so I feel like I'm being consistent, but I don't know. I feel like for over the last few years, there's this weird entitlement that people have to celebrities that's like, well, we buy your music and we consume your art, so you have to be nice to us, and like at all costs. And you kind of have to give up an aspect of your humanity in order to serve and entertain us. And I'm like, um, why do y'all feel like that? I do think all humans do. I think this? I don't know if I want to make a sweeping generalization like this, but I don't know if I think, I don't know, respect. There's an element about respect in all of this, and an element of like, I guess respect and humanity are the two things that I can think of that are just kind of like, okay, you as the consumer do have power over a celebrity's life, in the sense that if you stop consuming, they stop being famous. So like there is that power dynamic that happens. And there's the power dynamic of like someone who has a lot of fame, who has a lot of money and a lot of like influential power uh, can also cause problems for people too. So there is like that dynamic of it that I recognize. But it's like, let me just get into the examples. So wait, let me see what y'all are saying. Um I wouldn't mind being rich, but I'd hate being famous. I would feel weird about both of them because being rich has a level of weird shit that goes with it too, where people also stop treating you like a person because we're in this dog eat dog system that people start taking advantage of you in that sense too. And this is not in defense of billionaires. I don't give a fuck about billionaires. I'm just talking about people who are, you know, I'm just talking about people who are rich off of I'm not even gonna say that, but we're not talking about billionaires. Billionaires have done enough. They need to open their purse. It's not humanizing at all. The situation with Doja Cat is weird, aligns with current context of SA. I agree with this, and I will come back to that. I met someone who knows Bieber and expressed concern about him, and they snapped, "He's a 30-year-old man and should have his shit together." No, disagree. Because what did I just say about being 30? I can't imagine like growing up as a child, like child actor, child celebrity, and not having a normal childhood and having people on your ass from a very like that's traumatic. Sorry, it's traumatic. Not having any privacy as a child and as a teenager and like going through imagine if you would have had the entire world watching you go through shit like what these Nickelodeon stars went through. Ew, hello. That's so traumatic. I just they go through so much and money does not fix that shit. I think we have this idea that money can solve can solve all of your problems, and it can definitely solve a lot of problems that are created by capitalism, but money does not solve a lot of things. So that's the same reason why you see a lot of really rich people unaliving themselves. I agree that so much obscured labor, power, and influence contributes to how celebrities are established. Yeah. It must be so jarring. I don't even want social media as an artist anymore. Exactly. Like even me coming on and talking to y'all every week is just like, and my audience isn't even that big, but just like you do one thing wrong, and for some reason everyone else acts like they've never done anything wrong in their life, and because you have this responsibility of this visibility that you need to be better because you're a reflection of whoever, and I'm like, I just don't know. The conversation of weaponized power and influence coming up during a Mars and Leo transit makes sense too. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly why I was thinking about it. I feel really bad for people famous from a young age. It seems awful. Yes. Okay, so the situation with Doja Cat, if you haven't seen it, there was a video posted of her a couple of days ago talking to this fan, and they were both like just out at a bar, and both of them were clearly drunk. And this fan, it's a gay male fan that she had. He's wearing this shirt that said something, I don't remember. This like wife beater tank top kind of looking thing. And they're not called that anymore. This white tank top looking thing. And she said something like, I guess she said that she loved his shirt. And mind you, somebody is filming this interaction. So already to me, I'm like, this is a shitty situation if you are a person with a lot of visibility because people are always fucking watching you. I just feel like that must be exhausting. So somebody's already recording the interaction. This guy, like, this is a fan talking to Doja. It's the middle of the night. They're both plastered. He takes off his shirt and gives it to her because she's like, "Oh, I love your shirt, whatever, haha." And he like takes off the shirt and gives it to her. And she's just, you can see, like, I feel like I could tell that she's just going along with it, and she's kind of like, ha 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 ha, ha ha ha, like can't really, just kind of fawns in that situation. And so he like takes off the shirt and hands it to her, and she's just like, "Oh, I can't, no, I can't take that." And he's like, "No, I want you to have it." And she's like, "Haha, thanks," and whatever. And then they go on, and he's just like hugging her and talking about how much he loves her, blah blah blah. And he's like, "Doja Cat," he's like, "Doja, what's your real name? Is it Doja?" And she's like, "It's Ami, because her name is Amala." And he's like, "Oh, Ami, it was so nice to meet you," blah blah blah. They like hug, and he's like holding on to her the whole time. I have the video. Holding on to her the whole time and just like grabbing her and just like it was making me cringe the whole time I was watching it, because if it were me, and I've been in situations like this, and where I was just like, this is a lot. I don't really like this. But um I'm glad to give my shirt to Doja Cat because she's the iconic girl. Yeah. Oh, babe, you deserve it. Literally, and if you ever want anything more, I got you always. This is the very Happy Pride Month. Pablo. Wait, what's your running or is it Doja? Ami? Ami. You're beautiful. I hope you have the best night. You have literally everything in life. Thank you. You smell great. Okay, so there's that, right? You can read into that and get whatever you want out of it. But I feel like when you're famous, and people love to bring up all the other weird shit Doja's done. I get it. And also, to me, so let me just say the rest. So she tweeted, then I guess a couple days later, she said, bottom line is, I'll smile at you, but it doesn't mean I fuck with you. And don't touch me and manhandle me when you don't even fucking know me. If you know, you know. I honestly think I need to stand up for myself in the moment sometimes. And he didn't even know my fucking name to be touching me and kissing me on my face like that is crazy. And then she said, I threw that musty ass shirt away, by the way. So everyone is is losing their minds about this, because Doja, some of the context is that Doja has this from her Scarlet era a couple years ago, has this whole thing about like people started this whole thing about she hates her fans because she said something about hating her fans. Now, my interpretation of that incident was that people are fucking weird, and we're being weird about the guy that she was dating. I guess he was an abuser, Jay Cyrus. And so a lot of people were trying to say like, hey, your man's an abuser, this and that. And she was like muting and blocking people and like not responding when they were like saying stuff about the guy she was dating. And a lot of people didn't like that because, for obvious reasons. And then there was something else about like, I kind of don't remember a lot of it now, but there was something else about like saying that, all of these people fell for the cash grab music from her Planet Her album and all the pop music stuff that she used to do. She like said something about like, yeah, I got rich off of all of that stuff. Now I can do whatever I want. Y'all ate up all of the cash grab stuff. So I kind of don't remember a lot of that, but I do remember hearing her say in like interviews and stuff that, a lot of people who aren't actually her fans and who are just people being on the internet bullying her and shit, taking stuff out of pocket. You know how people are on Twitter, especially with celebrities. She's, talking to them, and I guess some of those people were her fans. And so I think the whole I hate my fans thing is kind of similar to like Chaperone, where Chaperone is like, y'all be doing too much. Like, y'all don't know me. We don't know each other. Y'all talk to me any kind of fucking way and expect me to just not do anything about it. And so this has kind of been a thing for Doja throughout her career. Mind you, if you're interested in her chart, she does have Venus and the Sun in Libra in the first house, and she has Mars and Jupiter in Scorpio in the second house. So them is two very different, very big energies. And I think for her, my observation, along with a lot of her just personal identity stuff and everything else, is that those two things be beefing with each other a lot internally. And so it leads to this really confusing behavior that a lot of people perceive from her outwardly. The whole cash grab Planet Her era with the long blonde wigs, and the super feminine era was very much her Libra, and then her Scarlet era was very much her Scorpio stuff. And so to me, I see it more as like she is a troll. She does a lot of weird stuff. Her personality is kind of weird and edgy and trolling, and she doesn't really think things through and like think about the impact that it'll have on her own image, and like the way that people respond to it mostly just finds it annoying. And if you call yourself a fan and you behave a certain way towards her, then yeah, she doesn't like you, but obviously she likes her actual fans and people who respect her and her art. And then there's also a part of her that's like, y'all only like me whenever I put the wig on. Like whenever she shaved her hair and her eyebrows and like just totally went off the rails with her appearance and stopped doing the the Libra Venus thing, in my opinion, a lot of people try to create stories about her joining the Illuminati and like doing Satan worship and all this other stuff because of her song Demons. When if you actually listen to the lyrics, it's like, I don't know, her Scarlet era just made way more sense to me when you actually listen to the lyrics and you understand the context of what it's like to be a celebrity, and especially an artist, where people get really attached to certain versions of you, certain sounds, certain albums that you make, like all of this other stuff, and also just like want you to be who they want you to be so they don't have to feel guilty about liking your stuff. That's my synopsis. I'm sure there's more layers of it that I could add to it, but for the purpose of this conversation, that's usually where I land on most celebrity things, is like we want them to be a certain way so we can feel better about consuming their stuff. When at the end of the day, they are who they are, and you can either like it or not, but you can't control it. And I think trying to control it is weird. And acting like you know these people is weird. So to me, we tie all that back into this interaction, right? The first thing that people went to whenever she typed all of that stuff out was that Doja hates her fans. Like, we knew that she hated her fans. I don't know why y'all are surprised. And I'm like, okay, first of all, when I see that interaction, whether she was into it or not, my first thought is, why are you all over this woman that you don't know? Just because she's famous, just because you listen to her music, you think that means that you can go up to her, grab all over her, be all in her face, like kiss all over her, say all this stuff just because you're a big fan and you like her music and you don't mean any harm? Who else in the entire world would you feel comfortable doing that with? Like, there are acquaintances that I don't feel comfortable having those interactions with. And people are like, well, he didn't mean any harm. Obviously, he's just a fan, da 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 da. I'm like, but what makes you think that? I don't know. Because then the other part of this that comes up is like the boundaries thing, right? Which is where I think this part comes up. Because people are like, well, it's her job to uphold her boundaries. And, she was playing along with it. How was that fan supposed to know that she wasn't going to like that? And I'm like, again, what makes you feel like it's okay in any context to be all over somebody that you don't know? It's weird. Like, yes, there's always something to be said for us having our own boundaries, which I feel like she said herself in her tweet. I really need to stand up for myself more. This whole standing up for herself more thing is something she's battled with the entire time that she's been famous and making music and been online, because most of her fame came from her doing live streams online and her being upset that, like, people just say anything to her and people get this weird sense of entitlement. So to me, I'm just like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe she could have did this and that, but at the end of the day, why do you feel so comfortable being all over this person that you don't know? I don't care if you know their music. I don't care if you listen to their stuff all the time. If you're a big fan, you meant no harm. Like, me personally, I don't do all that even with people that I do like. It's just a lot. It's overwhelming. I understand being drunk and everybody's having fun. Nobody is thinking about anything. But if we're going to say, well, she has to uphold her boundaries, I'm also going to say, well, you also have to have self-control. Where is your self-control and respect for somebody else's personal space of this stranger that you literally don't know? That's what it comes down to me. And like, I just think it's weird. Now, if we want to talk about her going online and tweeting about it afterwards, like, people are like, well, they could have had a private conversation. She could have DM'd him, this and that. They don't know each other. I don't know that man. I wouldn't know that man if I saw him walking down the street. Sorry to that man. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand this, like, well, she could have been nicer. She could have been nicer about it. I think the tweet itself didn't even drag him as bad as she probably could have. She said, I didn't like this interaction. You manhandled me. You were all up in my face and you didn't even know my name. So you didn't like the fact. I think she's using that more as a rhetorical device. Personally, I'm like, when she says like, you didn't even know my name to be all over me like that, I think that's literally just saying like, you don't even know my name. Why are you all over me in this way when we don't know each other? This is a stranger. So I don't know. People are just like blowing it out of proportion because they don't like when I think people just don't like when women stand up for themselves personally. They want women to do it a certain way. They want you to be very kind and very sweet and very demure. and small and polite when I'm like, why? Why? I don't expect that from anybody. If she and to that point, if she would have been firm in that moment or done anything to just kind of be like, eh, the internet still would have dragged him for getting, getting curved, getting swerved by a celebrity. Like I feel like she's damned if she does, damned if she doesn't, which is Scorpio shit. Where just her being uncomfortable by the interaction and not just taking it on the chin and being nice about it, people are going to find a reason to be upset about that. I truly believe that because that's celebrities in general. So I bring that one up to then also talk about this video of Justin Bieber, which is a little bit longer, so I'm not going to play it. But basically, he's like at the beach and it's also at night, standing by his car waiting for somebody. And there's all these paparazzi around him. And he's like, y'all don't think this is weird? Y'all don't think that it's fucking weird that I'm at the beach at a public place, standing by my car, minding my business, and y'all are over here shoving cameras in my face? Like, y'all don't think that's weird? And he's like, and then y'all are gonna make me the bad guy because I'm sitting here. And he said, like, y'all aren't, it's not clocking to you. It's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business. And we're like, okay, that's not really how you say that, but he's also throwing a fit because he's like, why are y'all in my space? Why are y'all always shoving cameras up my ass? Like, can I just be a guy? He's like, I'm a human being. Okay, I'm a dad, I'm a father, I'm just a guy. Leave me alone. And everyone also made a big deal about that. Justin's on drugs, Justin's this, Justin that. Even if he is, how would you like it if every time you left the house to go downstairs, to go for a walk, or to take your dog out to take a dump, or to go to the grocery store, you got 5011 cameras taking pictures of you, knowing that one of them, or if not several of them, are going to take whatever image out of context, write a whole entire narrative about you, about stuff that you didn't do, didn't say, things that didn't happen, just so that they can make money off of your image. Like, what? Why is that okay? That's not okay. Um, so it's just weird. And so I think it's funny that so many people are like, well, she needs to have boundaries. He needs to, it's like, okay, well, they're having boundaries. Her tweeting that and saying, look, just because I smile in your face doesn't mean that I actually fuck with you. I don't know you like that. Don't be all over me. Don't be all in my space. I should have stood up for myself better. Okay, well, now you know. That is her setting that boundary. It may not be proper in the way that we would like it to be, but that is her saying, like, yo, chill out. It's the same thing. People got mad at Chaperone for whatever it was that she did however long ago, of like not wanting to take a picture with a fan when she was out because she's just minding her business and trying to just go about her day and doesn't want to be bothered with 5011 people asking for her autograph and for a picture. Like, sometimes you just don't want to be bothered. And people turned that into saying that she doesn't like her fans, and well, look at this celebrity. This celebrity is always nice to their fans, blah blah blah. And it's like, I think that's messed up. First of all celebrities are not the same. Everybody's not an extrovert. Everybody's not an introvert. Everybody's also not a billionaire like Rihanna and Beyonce, where if you even get like 6 inches close to them, all of their security detail is going to be like, hey, oh, wait, whoa, wait. Like, I see y'all are saying that in the chat too. Like, where are her people? Why was she out there by herself? And it's like, that's the other thing. Like, some of these celebrities are not as famous as other ones, or as, I don't know, protected as other ones, because I'm sure that shit's expensive. Like, I don't know what I don't know what all goes into that. Where anybody else was, we just don't know what else was going on for her in that situation. Okay, let's see. Y'all said, I sometimes think many celebrities live in a fawn state, and when they go into fight or flight, people freak out. Absolutely. Because they're upholding this image of being this commodity, basically. Um, and there's an expectation that comes with that. People get mad whenever you act like a person and you do people things. I always think of that adorable bitch I'm a cow thing when I think of her. Yes. It makes me think of how performing femininity is so exhausting. Seriously. And it is. Okay. It is so exhausting. Intent versus impact. Exactly. I was bothered she was seemingly by herself. Where are her people? No police days were really so long ago. Wow. Yeah, they really are. The fan posting another vid crying about her reaction is another thing too. Like, it's just weird of her. It was just weird. Just take the L and disappeared. Yeah, the fan did a whole reaction talking about like, oh my god, I didn't know. I thought it was going so well. Blah blah blah. Well, now I'm gonna go like make merch out of that incident. And he's made another tank top that says musty ass shirt. Literally gonna go make money off of that experience. So like, this is why I be telling people all publicity is good publicity if you know how to work it. Because now we got more people paying attention to Doja when she's about to release this next album, and now this other dude is profiting off of this horrible exchange. Like, who really lost in this experience, right? Like, come on. Why weren't her friends there? I have a friend who's well known in certain contexts, and I've literally growled at people crossing boundaries. Yeah, seriously. It's just weird. I just don't like that. It reeks of this whole like asking for it thing that women go through as well. You know, like this is why people say you can't consent when you're drunk. Like you really can't. There's a lot of things I would agree to when I'm drunk that I wouldn't agree to when I'm sober. Or that I would at least hesitate a little bit more when I'm sober. Um and I just feel like it's really messed up that people have all this expectation that she, while she's drunk, would have behaved any other kind of way. And you could say the same for him as well, but it's also like that's really the whole point. Like nobody was sober, everybody I don't know. I just think it's weird to take advantage of anybody and encroach on their personal space when you're intoxicated. Just maybe don't do that. And me personally, 6 feet. 6 feet. A proper conversation with a stranger, the entitlement of accountability. Y'all are not peers. Also, that, like, sorry, this is a stranger at the end of the day. And just because she got a lot of money and fame doesn't mean that she owes you docility, if you will, in these last days of the sun in uh Taurus. Emphasis on stranger. Like, filming folks is so normalized now too. Like, all this streaming stuff is getting out of hand. Also agree. Big Mars and Leo keyword right there. I don't remember what I said, but yeah. They're on Twitter calling it Karen behavior and how dangerous it was that she changed her mind. Like, be serious, please. You can change your mind about your behaviors in retrospect. You absolutely can. And I also, the other thing that I hate, just like on a human level, not even related to celebrity stuff, is that people are all of a sudden acting like she's so fake, she's so this and so that. And, you know, to like have her feelings is one thing, to but then to go and tweet about it and drag him all through the mud and whatever afterwards is so like messed up. I'm like, y'all do that shit all the time. Y'all literally do that shit all the time. And not only do y'all do that all the time, but y'all also will film people without their consent and then go on to talk shit about them online all the time. I'm not saying that it's okay, but I think it's very hypocritical to like expect that somebody else would do something that you don't even do. Like, be so fucking for real. It's just weird. And it's that thing again of like people having this expectation of people who have visibility to behave better than they would in the same exact situation. And it's like, nobody's even watching you and you still don't act right. Like, what do you mean? Y'all be passive aggressive on this damn internet every single day. Every single day. It's just not getting blown up across the internet for everybody else to judge because don't nobody know you. Hello? And this is not me saying that like people in general shouldn't be like better to each other, but I do think it gets to a point where it's like this expectation that boundary set, like it kind of goes back to the whole weaponizing therapy thing, and like this idea of like always having to be regulated, always having to have boundaries, always having to be self-aware, always having to, and it's like nobody is like that in real life. These are all things that we can work on, you know, to be more intentional in our relationships and in life in general. But most of the time, if you're in a situation, you're gonna respond how you respond, and it's just gonna be what it's gonna be. And you can do things after the fact to repair it and make up for it if you want to, but everybody don't want to do that also. And like, these are all the things whenever I talk about, I'm tie this into Pisces shit as well. These are all the things that are like, okay, if someone is behaving in a way that you don't agree with, that doesn't feel good to you, Instead of trying to control and change them, you get to decide if you want to engage with that anymore or not. Like, after a certain point, you're noticing a pattern of behavior, like, that you're aware of. You do also get to decide to remove yourself. So yeah, like, maybe Doja didn't respond to this situation very well. She may not respond to the next one very well, but she knows now, like, okay, I ain't doing that shit again. I might not even go outside no more. Y'all know this is why y'all don't see Beyonce ever. Because Beyonce is not gonna be outside with y'all no more. Because y'all don't know how to act. She does one interview and y'all don't know how to act. She does anything and people just get fucking weird about it. So that's why you never see her, never hear from her. She don't come outside. Like, I just think that's just how it's gonna be. If people can't act right, you remove your access to them people. I don't blame them. Um, but I would also hope that the fan also realizes, like, maybe I shouldn't do the most with people that I don't fucking know. That's like the other thing that I saw circulating was people talking about slow burners. Something about slow burning, slow the concept of a slow burn in relationships is just someone saying that they kind of like you or don't like you enough in theory and they're waiting to see if they actually like you. And I was like, well, honestly, yeah, kind of in general, because everybody has their representative, the version of themselves, back to this Leo shit, the version of themselves that they let everybody else see, that they want everybody else to see. You're putting your best face forward. That's your representative. And in any new relationship, for the most part, if you want somebody else to like you, you are showing up as your representative first. And then only after so much time has gone by, do you actually show your other aspects of self, not just your representative, but your defensive part of yourself, or your the parts of you that might be a little bit manipulative or dishonest or insecure or just whatever. All of these very human things that are not always intentionally malicious, like someone has a whole conspiracy against you. Sometimes it's just people making decisions and not knowing the best thing to do in a moment, or just getting it wrong. And all of that to say, like, when you're starting out in a new relationship, it's okay if you don't want to immediately commit your life to this person who, just because it's been going well for 3 weeks or 3 months, like, you still don't know that person. You will never fully know somebody. So I don't it's not a bad thing to consider that, like, yeah, somebody does like you in concept, but they don't know if they actually like you or not. That's just kind of being alive. It's okay. Minding your business is worth its weight in gold. Yes. I resent how the boundaries discourse has become weaponized against victims of assault. Like, you should have said no. Like, no doesn't stop people who don't value your refusal. Exactly. Or value your autonomy. Exactly. People act like boundaries is a one and done event and not something you actively learn to practice. Exactly. You learn to practice implementing it and people learn to practice responding to it. Like, it's not an overnight change most of the time, especially if it is a boundary that's gone undiscussed or unrealized. Like, sometimes too, you don't even realize in a moment that you didn't really like something until you're thinking about it later. Or probably for Doja, until she saw that video and was like, ew, why did I let that happen? Like, I really didn't like that. I should have been more honest in the moment with myself. Like, this idea that we're constantly as self-aware as we think we are is just not true. Like, we're not nearly as self-aware as we think we are. Sorry. It's just gonna be messy. I feel like the more that I've allowed myself to just be messy in a human way, the less judgment that I have of other people. Cause I'm like, well, I do some shit too. I'm not perfect. I'm not expecting somebody else to be better than me. And I'm not better than everybody else either. I just am not. I don't know. Maybe I'm naive, but Gemini shit, okay? No one is even watching you and you still don't act right. It's true. uh the convergence of both influencer versus big artist is happening in such strange ways. I wonder how it will look after this Aquarius Leo transit. Ooh, good question. Yeah, because influencers are really getting pretty famous as well. It's been interesting to see. People pick her as an enemy for the weirdest reasons. That's that Scorpio shit. Scorpio curse. And it's so funny because she did say, whenever she had her head shaved, she was like, It was either her or someone else, but I think it was her who said, "And as soon as I put that wig back on, y'all are gonna forget everything that y'all were ever mad about and be back on my dick again." And sure enough, she put that wig back on, and everybody forgot. I'm like, that says more about y'all than it does about her. If we being for real, I don't know. With Doja blowing up in 2020 and being one of the big TikTok stars to blow up 5 years later, with all that's happened, I wonder how she's processing like the rest of us. That's a masterclass on empathy right there. Thank you for tying together the first part of the conversation and this part, because true, I think her, Billie Eilish is kind of that way as well, who's also very young. Jojo Siwa is also probably that way because she's also very young. Who else blew up in 2020? Because there were a lot of people who blew up because of the pandemic and people being at home and everyone being on the internet to watch people who just been hanging out on the internet for so long get famous. And Doja's been sick a lot too. She's sick every 5 minutes. She had to have her tonsils out, I think, some tonsil surgery at one point and everything else. Um yeah, there's even some influencers that I listen to, influencers, content creators on YouTube that I listen to who talk about how much they've changed in the last 5 years and how they're like, wow, it's really been 5 years. Like, I was listening to one of my content creators I follow who is a lesbian creator who realized that she wasn't into men. She was like engaged, I think, leading up to the pandemic, and the pandemic hit, and that was her realizing like she's actually a lesbian. And ending that relationship and basically like blowing her whole life up in this way, and how much of that happened during the pandemic. Like, for some people, the pandemic itself wasn't even like the biggest thing that happened. Um it was everything that happened as a result of that. So I'm just like, we don't really take that seriously. Chat GPT, yeah, another thing. So much has happened and no time to process any of it. I hate Chat GPT so much. Like, I know people are getting delusional over it and thinking they're talking to spirit. I I just got so tired. It just blows me that people trust it. Why do you trust it? Why do you trust it? The people who created it are up to no good, although a lot of people don't believe that. Somebody was trying to tell me the other day, well, Elon Musk is mostly a good guy. I was like, okay. But I don't understand why people trust it. I don't understand why people don't think that it probably has some fallacies. I don't understand why people think that um it's fact based by any, like, I just, if you know that it's an amalgamation of everything that exists on the internet and all of the anything that anyone has ever said. Like, that's the most Jupiter and Gemini shit to me. With Saturn and Pisces, is that y'all are just taking everything that's ever been said, so long as it follows some kind of a mathematical pattern, and deciding that it's true, because this robot that can process things super quickly and consolidate information super quickly said so. Like, that don't make y'all think that the opinions and thoughts and comments that it's pulling from may not be correct? Hello? I don't know. That seems like it should be obvious, but it's not. Like, I do think anecdotes and people's personal experiences has their place, big time, but not always. It's never going to be fact. It's someone's individual truth of how they interpreted their experience of something, and I will never tell you that you didn't have the experience that you experienced. But that doesn't mean that it's true for me. That doesn't mean that it's correct. You know. The girlies are letting Chat GPT read their tarot. Yeah, they are. It's terrible. They're letting Chat GPT read their birth charts as well and plan their weddings at this point. Also, it destroys the environment. Right. Mostly that. People are so grossly misinformed. The way we conserve energy and water in this country, terrible. The plot isn't even in the room with us anymore. And algorithms are, in fact, racist as hell. Exactly. Yeah. But every 5 minutes, you will find somebody under a viral tweet saying, Grok, is this true? Just wasting. Just wasting. Might as well just put the hose out in the middle of the street and let it run. Might as well. Unserious lot of people. Whew. Anyway, what else? What else did I have to talk about? Oh, actually, I did hear a nice quote from our town hall yesterday at work that I thought was relevant that I wanted to share with y'all. She was talking about I don't know if she got this quote from the training that she went to or if she got it from something else, but she went to this training that was like basically putting a lot of these staff members who do student care work through the experience of being in poverty and like trying to get housing through certain organizations and all of this stuff. So they had this experiential learning thing around what students go through who are experiencing poverty and homelessness. And she made it out of the thing with this quote where she said, if you judge, you cannot connect. And if you can't connect, you can't communicate. And I was like, "Ooh, that seems real relevant with the sky right now." So if you judge, you cannot connect, and if you can't connect, you can't communicate. That gives so much Gemini Sagittarius, but also just like mutable in general. Because, I think at least I know for me personally, I struggle with judgment in general in a lot of ways. But judgment in the sense of like I don't know, I guess when I hear the word judgment, um there's judgment in the neutral sense of just like observing something and like forming a conclusion around it. But then there's judgment in the way that like also implies shame because I have Jupiter in a fixed sign. But there's this judgment that also implies like shame or condescension or like disgust or disappointment or some kind of expectation, or I don't know. There's judgment in that way where um that's something that I feel a lot of discomfort around doing, even though it is something that I believe can also keep you safe in some instances. Uh, but I think if the context is that you are in a position of power over other people getting their needs met or something like that, or you're in some kind of position where empathy is a better tool or connection is a better tool than judgment, then I think as an educator or as an administrator where people are trying to, I don't know, an administrator in that situation or whatever, then like yeah, if you're too busy judging somebody, then you can't form a connection because there's going to be this like kind of stiff arm um like your judgments, your opinions, your narratives, whatever it is that you have are going to get in the way of you actually seeing the person in front of you and the experience that they are having for themselves, right? It kind of goes back to this whole Leo thing as well, where it's easy to project onto other people like what you would have done or what you like to think you would have done, I'll say, or the type of person that you are, or your morals, your values, your priorities. It's easy to project all of those things onto other people and think that they should live life the way that you live it and then to judge them because of that. But when you do that, you're not really understanding them. You're not really listening to them. You're not really having empathy or compassion or like seeing things from their perspective or from their context of all the things that they're coming all the things that they're going through. And like I said last week, I do think it's possible to do that, to have that lens of empathy and compassion and not self-abandon in the process, or not um leave yourself open to harm in a particular way just because you have empathy and compassion. But I think we've been taught so much kind of through this whole like weaponization of power and victim blaming and stuff, that it has to be black and white in terms of, well, if I have any empathy for you, then I'm like, I don't know, condoning your behavior or your situation or whatever. But that's not really what that means. I think to me it's really just like, I can understand, or I can imagine what it is this person is going through and how they got in the situation they got in. And I can also consider that there's probably other factors that I'm unaware of that also contribute to the situation that they're in, right? So if you judge, you cannot connect. And then if you can't connect, you can't communicate, being the second part of the quote, was where I was like, ooh, um, right? Because if you're in judgment and then you're trying to talk through a situation, you're going to be communicating in a way that is through your judgments. um, you're communicating, you're speaking in a way that is through your own judgments and your biases and things. You're also listening to what they're saying with that lens as well. Communicating is not just talking. It's not just speaking up. Communicating is also listening, comprehending, understanding, um, and doing so in a way that both parties are able to be heard, you know? So I also feel like that's a good example of all of this stuff going on with this online stuff and all of this celebrity stuff, where it's like there is no communication that's happening here. It's just a whole bunch of people talking. Um, and this idea of like communication being like needing to explain, whether that's explain yourself or explain to somebody else, or to describe. I don't know. Sometimes like that is even too much, too many words. It's like the words are not doing what you think that they're doing. So yeah, there's an implication here that we can only communicate better if we are actually connecting. Otherwise, we're just going to be talking past each other. I would ask with students like that, tell me your thought process for that. And is it condescending? Yes, but I need to know the chain to see where the disconnect is. Working in education can be a layered mess. I actually don't think that's condescending. I think if you say it with a certain tone, it can be condescending. But I do think that's like, because so we do this thing called the Clifton Strengths at my job, where it just figures out, it's kind of like a MBTI thing, but it's different. And one of my top strength is strategy, which I thought was interesting. And it was saying, as like one of the ways to work with this strategy with other people is to explain your thought process, because the way that I process things and connect dots and all that kind of stuff can be so fast that other people don't understand how I even arrived at a certain conclusion or why I would suggest something, because to them, they don't see all of the connections that I've made in my head. They won't understand why I would suggest that and how it works if I don't explain my thought process. So I don't think that's a bad question to ask. Like, tell me your thought process for that. Or, so what was going through your mind during that experience, is another way. Or like, what was happening for you? Because it sounds like we're having a different experience. Stuff like that. Um, like I don't think that's condescending necessarily. Now, if you are being shady about it, then yeah, but I think it's helpful to see how people are processing, because a lot of times what happens is people are either moving too fast, or like I said, they're inserting something that isn't actually part of the conversation at all, because it's their own, for lack of a better way to put it, their own experience or their own imagination that's inserting something that's not actually part of the dialogue or the dynamic that's going on. um People do that all the time, and so sometimes when you hear what somebody is actually thinking and how they arrived at certain conclusions, you realize the misunderstanding is in usually an assumption that was made or something that was implied based on some other aspect of the conversation. So yeah, sometimes it is actually good to know and good to ask, you know with a little bit of tonal awareness, like, How did you arrive at this conclusion? Because it adds more context. Sometimes it's like too many cooks in the kitchen when serving students what information, but alas, no one talks to each other. Departments are so annoying. Yes, exactly. That's one of the biggest things we're going through too, is like these departments need to speak to each other because we're not mind readers. In collaborative spaces. Okay, do I have anything else? I think a lot of this is also part of the whole Jupiter Saturn square between Gemini and Pisces. Because you can absolutely interpret, especially visually, um you can interpret something a million different ways based on what you want to see in that interaction. I do think to some extent you can decide to see things differently if you wanted to tell a different story if you wanted to, but sometimes it's not that easy. But sometimes you can, and sometimes it's actually very helpful to do that. Decentering yourself and not making it about you, or um, understanding that, yeah, maybe this person is projecting onto me a little bit and I don't have to carry that. That doesn't mean that I can't still figure out what it is that they're going through and why they're resisting my help, or why they need my help, or why they, I don't know, just whatever it is. Like, I think it's tricky to do, and it's something that we all do, which is also very human, to impose our narratives onto a situation to make ourselves feel better, or to drive ourselves to make certain decisions, or whatever it is. But I think right now, while the sky looks like this, um, have the conversations, ask the questions, uh, be a little bit more mindful of when you're projecting or inserting your narratives and ideas and beliefs onto something, or trying to place your idea onto something when you just don't have the full story. Like, I think it's good to be mindful of all of those things. And then in terms of like being on the receiving end of that stuff, like, yeah, knowing yourself and your intention and who you are, and um accepting that you're not always going to get it right, but also people are going to think what they want to think, and learning how to kind of separate yourself from that as well, and still do what you need to do to be you. Like, I think that's also relevant in this moment. It's very hard. I don't like, well, not true. I do like when people talk about me, if it's good or it's bad, because then, hey, you're talking about me. It's just what you do with that attention when you get it, right? And nobody can know your side of the story until you tell it. And if they misinterpret it, then that's some people that you just need to leave alone. All you can do is speak up for yourself, stand up for yourself, say what you need to say on behalf of yourself, and whatever people do with that, people gonna do with that. You can't really control it, but you can decide who you do and don't give your energy to. I know that much. Okay, besties, that's all I have for today. I need to go eat some lunchies. I need to go get the rest of my dad's gift together. If y'all are celebrating Father's Day, happy Father's Day to you. If you are struggling on Father's Day, my heart is with you, and I hope you take it easy today. Take care of yourself. And to everybody in between, I hope you'll have a wonderful day. Hope you'll have a wonderful week. As far as I can tell, no extra transits this week. Just the moon moving around. Happy Juneteenth also. And then I will see y'all next Monday for Mercury in Cancer and the Sun square Saturn, and whatever else happens next week. We've got a lot going on next week, so enjoy. Hope y'all rest up. No, I'm not pulling cards today. I'll pull cards for the new moon. I'll pull cards for the new moon next week. Okay, peace and blessings. Cue outro music.